A lot of people who hear me talk about the Monsterverse and such will probably assume that I really want them to just abandon the entire direction that they were taking with the Adam Wingard movies entirely and just go back to what they were doing with King of the Monsters. Actually, no. I do not believe that, and I'm going to explain why I think so. The reason why is because all that would be is just confirmation for me that I was right. And in this type of situation, that is the worst possible decision you could make. What you should really be doing in this situation is just continue on the path that you were going forward, maybe improve some of the general flaws, but then you have to convince me that I was wrong and that this direction was indeed the correct direction to take with this series. That could lead to maybe me being like, hey, maybe I was wrong about the direction here. Maybe let me try and revisit the other ones. And then I could probably go back and maybe appreciate Godzilla vs. Kong or Godzilla Kong New Empire in a way that I had never thought I would have before. I'll give you an example. I believe most of y'all, if you've seen my other channel, probably know that I am a massive Snyderverse fan. I really like the DC Zack Snyder movies way more than the general public would prefer I would. But to be real here, I didn't really like those movies when I first saw them. I wasn't a big fan of Man of Steel, and I hated Batman vs. Superman. And that continued for a while until Justice League came out, the Snyder Cut Justice League. That movie was so good, so impressive to me, that it made me go back and reevaluate the other movies. It showed me that, like, because it didn't, like, try to, like, abandon everything Snyder did at that point. It was developed as a logical follow-through to these other movies. And because I ended up liking that movie, it made me go like, let me check these out. And I started to appreciate the direction Snyder went way more than I probably did previously. I still wouldn't say they're like 10 out of 10 quality-wise. Man of Steel still has pacing problems, BVS still has writing problems, and I'm still debating to this day if I actually like Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. But the point is that I now really appreciate those movies and Zack's direction, and now I'm a big fan. And that's what I believe the Monsterverse should be doing at this point. Because abandoning the direction, like they did with the King of the Monsters, and I understand why that was their thought process of like, yeah, well, it didn't do well critically, it didn't do well financially, let's just move away from what Michael Dougherty was trying to do and try and do something else. But, you know, to me, I feel like that's sort of an admittance of defeat. Like, if you're, like, someone who doesn't like King of the Monsters, would abandoning that direction make you appreciate King of the Monsters? No. All that would do is confirm to you that you were correct, because the studio in your head is like, yeah, you guys were right. Let's just throw all that in the garbage and try something different. Which is still a crapshoot if they even would like it once that change happened. And then someone like me, who did really like what King of the Monsters was trying to do, is now pissed off because, well, they just got rid of all the good shit. The stuff that I was excited about to see in the future has now been tossed in the garbage for something that I didn't want. And that's, I believe, the failings here. What they should have done, and what they should do now, is convince the haters that they were incorrect, instead of bowing down to them. I could almost feel that sort of sensation happen to me when I was watching Monarch. It was a good show, brought back a lot of similar energy, but still had that direction that the Wingard movies were going in terms of like the crazy off-the-wall sci-fi stuff that was nowhere near as prevalent in the previous three movies. It would have convinced me if there was some communication between both parties, because it ended up contradicting the Wingard movies, and then the Wingard movies contradicted it, and it just ended up making things more confusing. And That's where I feel like the Monsterverse really should be improving is cohesion. The Monsterverse at this point doesn't really have like a Kevin Feige like figure to keep things in order and keep the storyline straight. And though I do appreciate the whole idea of giving the directors free reign to do whatever the fuck they want, but the problem is that with a franchise like this, where multiple different voices are coming in to do different things, no one's going to be on the same page here. And so you do need like a guy to keep that in order. Not at all that I want like a big corporate suit to come in and be like, you need to make changes because the chart says this. And so we need to appeal to the focus groups because that would be even worse. Because then it just becomes a bland nothing fest with barely any substance. But it does need a little bit of that. Just like a guy or like get like a series Bible to keep all the lore straight and like have like a planned story line that you want to build through so that when like the next guy comes in, then the guy will be like, hey, make sure you're not doing something wacky here that is contradicting what we were going to do before or are going to do in the future. You can still do whatever you want specifically, but like these specific things, you can't like contradict these. That's truly what I think the Monsterverse needs.